Boy, I'm excited about this one here live in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all music and wrestling matters, Sportzwire Radio, because we've got an old friend, but yet in a new place. And let's just say he's going to certainly attack things like a panther. You might even want to say tonight's episode is going to be, well, walking with a panther, because we're going to talk a lot about those old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. We're going to talk about some stars. We're going to talk about some highlights, and we're going to get you ready for the 2026 season. And boy, what a whirlwind ride it has been, especially for this man, because you think about it, and you think about college sports. Now, we've been doing college sports for a long time here on Sportswire Radio, and I can't think of a situation, at least that I've covered in my career, where a coach takes over mid-season. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some players to keep an eye on. We're going to talk about some moments, and we're going to talk about maybe something on you. You out there watching this can get involved and support our Panthers. And we'll even give our guest something. But since I know he's been here before, and it's been a minute, I have to give him that introduction here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, certainly the only platform where all music and wrestling matters. And hopefully our SID and our AD will be okay with this intro. But I think so. I think that they certainly will be okay with it, because we can certainly give our public address announcer there at Old Westbury a run for their money. No, we're not politicking for a job. We're just getting right to the chase. But ladies and gentlemen, let's continue this 2-for-1 here tonight on Style on Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station where all music and wrestling matters. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one cable sports show. We are certainly walking with the Panther here tonight, because, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our head coach of the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team, Coach Jeff Littwin. My friend, how are we doing?
I'm doing really well, Tom. I'm not gonna lie. When I was unemployed for a little while there, I was worried I wasn't gonna hear that introduction again. So
you can always just come on if you might have been unemployed. All you gotta do is ask. I mean, I may realize you may not have wanted to talk about your previous place of employment, but you could have come up with something. I'm sure we could have found some things to talk about with you, Coach.
Absolutely. No, listen, I can't speak badly about my former place of employment, because
they're coming on tomorrow again, by the way. Coach,
well, no, that opportunity also led to this opportunity. So everything happens for a reason. I'm never gonna speak badly about my time there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my brother from another mother in Jay Facina.
And Coach is going to be here in this one tonight.
Absolutely. And you guys gave me a shout out on his season recap. Yes. So
love Coach. I love Coach Facina. Coach Facina,
absolutely.
You know that right? I've been doing this now almost 7 years. I know the platform is morphed into, you see all these big stars in rock and roll, ECW greats. We even had on the guy that was a part of the first match in ECW history, Chubby Dudley. But yet Coach Facina, through it all, has still come on here. He's come on here every year from when I first started back on SoundCloud and I was recording through Skype with bad audio. He's been here. He has stood the test of time. So we can never say anything but praise for Coach Facina.
Well,
even
to pay homage to my culture, he is a mensch, and so, it just he and I still speak almost daily.
Yes. Oh, I heard about that. Yeah. I mean,
and the thing is, he's always got great advice for me. I can always talk him down if something's going negatively, over there for him. So, it's a great way to balance one another. And I owe him a lot because, his recommendation, obviously, I'm sure went a long way with regards to me getting the position. So, you always need people in your corner. And, Jay is one of those guys, that, as the kids say, he's a ride or die, right?
No, I gotta say this about Coach Facina, and we're forever grateful for his support of the platform. I mean, he is a guy that if you work with him and you support him, he will give you everything, including his softball bat. I mean, he will literally, he will do anything for you. Now, after hearing that, Coach Wells is probably not coming on tomorrow, but no, he is really, a man that I gotta say, he is as loyal as anybody that I've ever met in as long as I'm doing this. To tell you the truth.
100%. As a matter of fact, you talk about loyalty. He, when I first, was going to be changing positions and things like that, he said to me, "You're so loyal to this place. If they didn't shut down the program, you'd still be here with me, because of that loyalty and things like." He said, they did you a huge favor by doing this, so you could move on and really grow and blossom. So, all flowers to Jay.
Absolutely. We'll talk a lot about him tomorrow. I got Coach Wells. No, I'm sure it'll be Sunday dinners in between that. But the hat looks great. The logo looks great in the background. And I want to talk a lot about that here tonight. So let's set the tables, because for those that are listening and watching here in prime time on the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the platform that you, Coach Littwin, Five Towns, and now the old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team have certainly helped build Sportswire Radio. Now you've gotten a chance to reflect. How do you feel overall about the 2025 season for our old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team?
I was really proud of what we were able to accomplish in the first season. The girls were put through a lot of turmoil. I really didn't get started right away. The previous coach retired in the summer, so there was a lot of influx. Coach Marinan, my assistant coach, did an amazing job of holding it together until the hiring process was finished. And, with a state job, everything takes a little bit longer and on. So, overall, we had our best record overall since 2019. So, it wasn't exactly where we wanted to be, but obviously, all things considered, and we can make all the excuses with injuries and things like that, and the same old song. But, I was really proud of the buy-in from the girls, and just the growth from my first practice to the end of the season, was really something to be proud of. And now moving forward, with a full spring season and, a full training camp, we're going to really push forward, especially with the girls we're bringing in. It's all things are good.
Absolutely. No question about that. And you and I were talking about this, and we were talking about this off air for the last couple of weeks, because obviously we knew that you were going to come back on here. But it's really one of those unique situations that I've seen. I've been doing this, covering college sports still for almost 7 years. And I can't remember a time where a coach took over mid-season and then had some success in the way that you did. I mean, how difficult was it for you and the team to take over and for them to adjust the way it was this season?
Once again, going back to something, when I first was going to take over, I called Jay and I said, "Jay, this is a really unique situation. How would you handle it?" We talked about not going in guns blazing, because I played a different formation than the girls had played before. Right. And, they had started off the season very strong. And it's like, do you go in and, this is who I am and this is how we're doing things, which is not my personality anyway. But the thing is, you're hired to do a job, and that job ultimately is to win. And, you don't want to upset the apple cart, if things are going well, but you're also looking forward as to what's coming down the pipeline, and you like have to be prepared for that as well. So it was definitely a different type of coaching job than I had done in the past. Remember my first job at Roosevelt, I had built the program. At Five Towns, I built the program. Now I was coming into a very established program that has a long history.
And you're in the Skyline Conference. It's obviously different. You know, you were a high school coach. You had tremendous success. You know, here in Five Towns, you know, we're still a relatively young program, you know, going through different things, trying to find a roster, trying to find people that can come here. But here at Old Westbury, I mean, the history with this school and being a part of the Skyline Conference in NCAA program, I mean, that's a huge step, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I walk in to my office. Yes, that's right. I have my own office, my nameplate up on the door, and I walk into the office, and there are pictures of previous teams, of a young lady's soccer ball who had scored 50 career goals, and I'm like, I'm walking into a historic program now, and
they have a history. They have a history.
It's not mine to build; it's now mine to maintain and add to the legacy of those who have come before me. So it's a lot different situation as far as that goes. Also, the amount of respect that comes with working at an NCAA school with a history now is when I make a phone call or an email to a coach, it's like, oh, SUNY Old Westbury,
yeah, people get excited because it's like, hey, and it's a SUNY, it's not even, obviously a guy like me, I covered the CUNY, but the SUNY, there's always, I remember even when I was in college, people said, oh, SUNY, there's just a different respect level. It's almost as if things are looked differently. Oh, it's the state, the city, people go, CUNY, and, but SUNY, and no disrespect to, we've had a lot of great CUNY schools come on my platform over the years, but SUNY always commanded a level of respect that I don't think you get in a lot of places.
Well, I'm a CUNY kid. I did go to Queens College. So
and I got Gordiesso coming on here on Mondays. We'll hear about that.
Coach Gordiesso is a great guy, too.
Yes, he is.
And we play a lot of the CUNY schools on our schedule as well, because there is, with the Skyline Conference, one of the greatest things about it is the amount of travel is like less than 2 hours.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, St. Joe's.
Jay and I would be traveling up 4, 5, 6 hours to go play Brian Stratton Syracuse or things like that. And I'm like,
yeah, we talked about that with Facina. My goodness. Yeah, I mean, if you were in Five Towns,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Whereas, at least, in the Skyline, if you were at Old Westbury for St. Joe's, a lot of stuff with obviously both St. Joe's schools, and you're playing John Jay, you're playing Brooklyn, you're playing Lehman, you're playing Hunter, you're playing York. So that is a lot easier of a commute. But, obviously you made a major adjustment, and we talked about in the past your high school experience. You've been here multiple times at Five Towns. Now you're here at SUNY Old Westbury. So I ask you then, now that you've got a little bit of experience under your belt here for this season, and I'm going to jump the gun right off the bat. I mean, how is recruiting going to be like this year? Because I know it's already started.
Yeah, we actually have 3 girls signed already. We have 2 transfers at minimum coming in January. We're working on a few more. The magic number I want to bring in is 10 girls, and all my girls know that, because we've unfortunately dealt with a lot of injuries the last couple of seasons at the end of the season. I mean, we had 17 girls to start the season, and there were games where we were going with 11 and 12 because of injuries. So we really need to build up the numbers overall, just so we don't have that, that bugaboo at the end of the season where we're just trying to get through the season because of injuries. And, my girls, the freshmen were averaging almost 1,000 minutes this season, and that's a lot on their
roster. That's a lot. No, that's a lot.
And one of the things about having a bigger roster is then you can manage that, so when they're not playing as many minutes, there shouldn't be as many injuries. It's all this big correlation. So but now, like I said, when I make a phone call or I have my hat and jacket on and I'm there and they're like, oh, SUNY Old Westbury, we're going to talk to him. And that, not that they didn't talk to me for Five Towns, but it's like when you have to explain where your school is, what your school is known for.
We know Five Towns is a smaller school. Different. We know that certainly tuition's an issue. We know that the school athletics program is only in its infancy stages, but Old Westbury has a history. And I think one of the things that's also important to note is that this school, the team here, had its best season winning percentage wise in over 6 years. And that's got to be something that you can build upon, because you came in here mid-season, you had some back-to-back wins, you had a winning streak there, you got here and you took over a team that, obviously, Coach Bobringer certainly did a good job, but this was the best team that we had here at Old Westbury since 2019. And I think that that's got to be something that's also going to be a sell for anybody coming in here, but also our players that are here this season, because now they know that they're on the doorstep. They're on the doorstep. They're right there. We know the skyline's tough. The skyline here, it's a lot different in women's soccer than in other sports in the skyline. It's a competitive conference, and I got to think that you've got something there that for players that are here are going to want to build upon for next season, but also for those that may want to come here, they know right away they have a chance to win.
Yeah. And, Coach Marinan and Coach Bobringer did a great job of bringing in the girls that, remember, I didn't recruit any of these girls, now I tried to recruit them when they, but, and I coached a couple of them in senior games and things like that when I was still coaching in high school. But the fact of the matter is, this quote unquote was not my team. They became my team, and we're going to be adding to that. But, I can't take credit for the personnel that was already there. All I can do is, and like I said, without Coach Marinan, none of this really happens, because, she kept the ship going until everything kind of was able to finally work itself out and go from there. So, but yeah, it definitely helps with recruiting. We have 3 freshmen already signed, like I said, and a few more in different parts of the paperwork. I'm hoping a few of them are on the call, checking it out, really getting to know Coach a little bit more. We had a very successful open house back on December 10th.
Yes.
The school just celebrated its 60th anniversary. So that was a big deal as far as that goes. So just a lot of differences, but all positive differences moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. And if you're here on Instagram, go out there and follow the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. I also want to share an important link in how you can directly support the program and how you can support all the great things that the school has to offer. And you have the opportunity here directly. And this is the way you can influence change. We talk all the time on Sportswire with this person and that person, all the heavy hitters. But this is your chance to be a heavy hitter. This is your chance to almost be like what the Green Bay Packers have in football. Everybody knows the Green Bay Packers are owned by the fans, and you have that opportunity here to get involved and support the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team and directly be involved and help this team. We're going to talk a lot about this team tonight, so you get to know them and get involved directly. That's that link. And we're here with our very good friend, Mr. Jeff Littwin, of course, who is now the head coach of the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team, who are coming off their best season, winning percentage-wise, since 2019. Yes, times are changing, and better days are certainly ahead, because this team is right there knocking at that doorstep. And let's talk about some of those players, Coach, that are going to get us, I think, over the hump and give us our first winning season since 2019. I think right off the top, it's Kristen Gallagher.
Yeah, she won Player of the Week. I want to say my first week there with 2 shutouts. She's been an amazing goalkeeper for us. We had some history because we played against them last year when I was coaching at Five Towns, so I knew her quite well. She is very instinctual, and she's an absolute leader. She's also been helping out with the tours now when the recruits come in and things like that. Her mom is probably our biggest fan, or definitely ranked right up there. She comes to every game, and it's just great to see the support that we get. She's really, really hard on herself, but in a good way, because she wants to be the best out there. Funny story is, we had a recruit come in, and the recruit's dad kind of challenged Kristen, saying, my daughter is, coming for your job. And Kristen took it, so well. And she said, Coach, we haven't had a backup keeper, since I've been here. I welcome the challenge. It's only going to make me better. And, when you have, that kind of buy-in and that kind of maturity at your most difficult position, you're really in good shape.
Yeah, and how big is that? Because we've talked a lot over the years, you and I, and even we've talked with other coaches. And to have a goalie, that to me is the foundation for where this team is going to go. And having someone like Christian, who's had so much success, you referenced the Maritime and the St. Joe's Brooklyn wins right when you take over, and I got to think that that's the foundation that's going to lead this team to, again, its best season in over half a decade. It's because of someone like Christian Gallagher. And talk about the importance of having a goalie like her.
I've been very blessed to have keepers throughout my career.
You've had some good ones.
Whether it be high school, the two I had at Five Towns, and now Kristen, and hopefully this young recruit we're bringing in for when her time comes. It's the hardest position. That's why Jay is so blessed to have Coach Morelli, and have a great goalkeeping coach. And it just, and now we have one in Mohamed Torre, who is one of my volunteer coaches, and he's been working with Kristen, and you just see the growth after every practice and after every game. And we'll talk about that purchase game a little bit later on and how big Kristen came up in that game. And, if you don't have a strong keeper, it really sets your team back. And, because she's literally, even though we have captains on the field, she's literally calling out everything. She sees the whole field and she's lining people up. She's setting up the defensive walls, and, you have to be strong. That is not a position for the weak.
No, definitely not. Now we've seen that obviously over at Five Towns, and talking about Coach Torre and obviously Coach Marinin. I mean, talk to me about how important that they are going to be going forward for you with this team.
Oh, my staff is super important to me. I can't do this without them. I mean, as much as I know, I don't know everything, and they come at it with a different perspective. So the interesting thing is, when we were kind of thrown together, obviously, because Coach Marinin was there already,
right.
And you don't know how that's going to be. She even said, "This is your team," and I'm like, "No, you've been here. I need your input." Where a lot of other coaches might have been like, "No, this is my team, and we're going to do it my way." And once again, I think the personality that I bring to it is very open-minded. Like I said, to bring on Coach Torre, who is a goalkeeping specialist, which is not my area of strength, is huge. I'm working on a couple of other volunteer coaches who have reached out to me because they've heard good things. They also know me from the high school level and so on. So we're really trying to build this up and make it a program that we can be super proud of and challenging every year for the Skyline Conference. So
and I think also with Coach Marinin and Coach Torre, I mean, they've been here, and the players that are going to come back, I think that continuity is also important in retaining them, and also maybe even expanding their roles, because they're also going to know those players that you're inheriting, that maybe they can help you in terms of identifying even more to figure out for what's next season. Because again, you've only had these players, you only inherited them for, we're talking a month and a half. You had the job for a month and a half. They know these players in some cases for 2 and 3 years or even longer. So having Coach, Torre and Coach Marinin, that helps us going into next season because of that continuity.
Right. And Coach Marin has been here a long, long time. And she was a D1 soccer player at Hofstra. I mean, she knows her stuff. She runs clinics for younger kids and things like that. Coach Torre actually just came on this year as he's just started working at the college. And the great thing about Coach Marin and Coach Torre is they're there all day. So if the girls have an issue, they can always go to the other two coaches and have things, handled. Whereas, I'm at Roosevelt during the day, so it's a little bit harder for me to get stuff done. So just to have that constant support at the school, in addition
But that's a
to,
big difference being in the NCAA because you're going to have people
absolutely.
that work on site full time. Whereas, as you know, where you formerly were at Five Towns, everybody is part time. There is no
Yep.
full time staff at site, so that's a huge advantage, and I think that's going to help you also going forward. Let's talk about some more players on who we can expect to come back and help us into 2026, especially reach those heights that I think we're going to reach here in the Skyline Conference. And let's talk about a few of them.
Okay. Once again,
We gotta go with Skylar. We gotta go with Skylar. I mean,
you want to go with Skylar? Okay.
I want to go with Skylar.
So,
yeah.
Well, Skylar is like 5'10" or 5'11".
I noticed that. Yeah.
I kept trying to move her inside, and because I wanted to use her height as an advantage of corner kicks and things like that. And she was just much more comfortable on the outside. She's also the most laid back individual in the world. There was a play where she had a breakaway and she knocked the player over, and instead of putting the ball in the goal, she wanted to make sure the girl was all right, that she had knocked over.
I don't know if you would have liked that coach too much.
No,
I don't know if that was what
she is absolutely the sweetest kid on the planet. But I'm like, Skylar, next time put it in the goal, then check on her. We can show sportsmanship, but we got to put the ball in the goal. And she was like, all right, coach. And she's just, like I said, I wanted her to get a little bit more aggressive also because of that laid back thing. But it's really hard to change somebody's overall personality. They have to play to their strengths and things like that. So, we're going to continue to work, and she's, going to be a big part of what we're doing here.
Absolutely, no question. And I think that having somebody like that is going to be important for us going forward. And let's talk about Eleni Petrie. Talk to me about what Eleni Petrie brings to the table.
So I knew Eleni when she was in high school. I tried to recruit her out of Francis Lewis. She obviously came to Old Westbury, and the first thing I said to her is, "Do you remember me?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "See, that's why you always got to be nice to coaches. You never know where we're going to end up." But her family's at every game, super supportive. Eleni is very similar to Skylar in that kind of laid back mode. By the end of the season, though, she had gotten really aggressive and got her first yellow card. And she's like, "You're not mad?" I'm like, "No, you were being super aggressive. It was great." So, every once in a while, we want to see that natural instinct kick in. It's not a skill issue because they are all skilled players. It's a matter of finding that balance of being a little bit more aggressive versus not crossing the line and causing the team a problem with a yellow card or a penalty and so on and so forth. So
that's an interesting point there. And I have to talk about Jamie Sordo. I mean, that's another player that you're expecting big things from next year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jamie played out of position almost the whole entire season. We had her at left back, and she did an amazing job, but she's a forward. She's got a forward's mentality. Every time she got the ball in the back, she was, bringing it up, and we were like, how to make sure somebody would cover her space. Her mindset is super uber aggressive, and I love it. I think she did lead the team in yellow cards, so that goes without saying based on her aggression, but she can put the ball in the net, and hopefully, with the recruits we're bringing in, we can move her to the position that, she's best suited for. But, one of the things I'm most proud of is that the girls never questioned when we needed to move them around because of injuries or because of need. Stephanie Donnelly, we'll talk about her shortly.
Oh, that was next on my list. That's your big gun. I mean, that's your big gun.
She was a huge asset for us. She started off as a midfielder, and we had to move her to right back because of injuries and things like that. And she was still scoring off of corner kicks. Now, to look at her, you'd be like, she's this tiny little thing, but she's so aggressive, and she's never going to, get out muscled or pushed off the ball. She's just an absolute scrapper, and I love working with her, because when we were working against her, when I was coaching at Five Town, she was, she's a firecracker, that one. So, we're expecting big things for her. She was actually eligible to graduate. She's one of the seniors. Even though it says junior because of high school credits and things like that she had. But she is planning on coming back. She has let me know. We actually had 6 seniors, And
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you do have a bunch of seniors, and you and I were talking about this, and maybe you want to share a few things on that.
yeah, but some of them still have eligibility and are thinking about now coming back to grad school. And one of the biggest compliments to the season was that, when we were doing our exit interviews, they were saying, if you had asked us at the beginning of the season, would we come back? The answer probably would have been no. But now we're seriously considering it because of the direction of the program. And we want to be there when we make the playoffs next year. And, it's just a much, much different atmosphere. And I'm so proud of what we've built in this short time and what we're going to continue to build and be even stronger going into next season.
I think that's exciting too, and I think that the players see that you are knocking on the doorstep. I think that if they saw that wasn't the case, not to say that they wouldn't come back, but there's a less likelihood that they would. But now seeing the results, seeing that you're going to get a chance to recruit, knowing your background, knowing your track record, the success you had at Five Towns here, which again, you had far less resources. I think that a lot of the seniors you have, I think they're going to come back, and I think it's going to, because they see that this team, like I said, is right there, and I think it's going to probably be a playoff team next year.
Absolutely. And they're invested because, somebody like Jasmine, our captain, has given 3 years of blood, sweat, tears, injuries, everything. She wants to be there when we make that playoff thing. So it kind of justifies everything that she's put herself through in order to be there. And that's something I want to give to them. One of the biggest things that came out of the exit interviews also was that they knew I was highly invested. So on my phone, I actually have my wallpaper is our mascot.
Why wouldn't I be surprised? You did this.
Yeah, and so they're like, wow, he's really invested. It's his wallpaper, not his kid. It's his mascot.
Well, if it makes you feel, I'm going to make you laugh. Today, my mother was having I guess, Christmas party, and I actually didn't make it because, well, you were here, Coach Littwin, and I was like, Coach, so that was my commitment to you and girls hockey. Hopefully, I'll win a few, supporters from that because my mother was not too happy with me. She was like, "You've had all these, famous people on here, and why couldn't you come over?" And my excuse was, "Well, you're in New Jersey. To me, that's like a foreign country. So at least I got that going for me." But no.
Well, and the other thing is, when you had suggested Tuesday originally, my biggest fan, Donna Leone, wasn't going to be able to
Donna's here in
make
the
it.
chat. We're going to say hello to Donna.
So,
yep.
I said I got to get a different day because if Donna can't make it, she's been to every one of these.
Yeah, I remember Donna when you were Five Towns.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the hardest thing for her was switching gear. she had to go from her Five Towns gear to
and Thursday. I got to be honest. You know what? I was just, my head was like on a silver platter. I mean, you have I don't know. I felt like my head was going to explode. Today is much better, and we're happy about that. Sorry, Mom, but I think we'll certainly get a pass on that. But when you have Jasmine, who's been your captain and who's done so much for this school, that's got to be somebody else that I think can help us, not just on the field, not just as a leader, but I think to sell the players that you're going to bring in, but also your identity. You're going to create an identity. And I think we talked about Christian, we know about Stephanie, but also that third rung to that identity that you're going to create next year to get this team over the hurdle and have its first winning season since 2019. It's got to be our captain, Jasmine Roldan.
Absolutely. Whenever I put it in the group chat that I've got a tour coming, she's usually the first one, her and Kristen, to say, hey, we'll be there. Living on campus obviously has its advantages. So she's there. But if you think my schedule is crazy, she is involved in everything. She's in student government. She's running clubs. She is one of the most unbelievable young women I've ever met. And I've known her since her high school days, when she played at Hicksville, along with her best friend Lola Chavez, who's also on the team now. And Lola, I actually coached in the senior game. I actually had the picture on my phone. I said, Lola, look. She was, oh my God, I was so young, and I'm like, you're not old, but yeah, that's how long I've known some of these girls, even though I didn't actually directly coach them other than that, senior game or whatever. So it's just very interesting how the coaching cycle kind of goes. Like that you work with somebody and then you don't know if you'll ever see them again. And then look, now, I'm your coach. So it's, but yeah, getting back to Jasmine, I couldn't do it without her. Like, we were collecting back uniforms and she's like, all right, let me know who owes what. And I'll stay on it. She literally handles everything when we're driving the vans and we're doing the food orders. She's, getting everything together. Like she's literally my right hand, on the team. So, couldn't do it without her.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm going to throw this out there the way you spoke about Jasmine, because I know you and I were speaking about her before we went on the air. Is that somebody that you'd like to see maybe involved in the program after her playing days are over next year? Because the way you speak about it, that's somebody that bleeds this program, and you always see sometimes with schools keep a certain player or have a certain player on. And if the opportunity speaks for itself, maybe Jasmine's one of those players that maybe would want to make the transition into coaching or something. Is that something you see and such?
Oh, absolutely. And she does coach younger kids in the summertime. I would love for her to stay on. We hold an alumni game, so she will help us organize that as well, and hopefully play in it for many years to come. But we've talked in the past about captains and how important they are to me, and the painstaking process that I go through about who I'm going to name a captain. And it's not always the most talented individual. It's, all of these other intangibles. And I was blessed to inherit Jasmine as a captain. We've had conversations where she's like, this is your team. If you're going to bring anybody else in, and I said, Jazz, I have no reason to bring anybody else in as a captain. You're doing an incredible job right now. So, just put that completely out of your mind. You are my captain. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't ask for a stronger captain.
Let me ask you one question, taking a slight detour, because I heard you talk about the alumni, and I know it's always different at an NCAA school. Obviously, I've done this a lot, and I know at Five Towns, it's a completely different environment for reasons you and I both know on and off the air. But having a school like this with a history, but also with many alumni that care about the program and such, and how important is that? And will you maybe try, if there's a way, to talk with those alumni, talk with those that are boosters of the program, in maybe finding ways to grow the program and build upon what you started here? So talk to me about how important alumni may be here going forward for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you were talking about CUNYs, the first thing I said is I went to Queens College. We all love our alma maters. These are
Yeah.
young ladies that graduated, played, 4 years for this program, gave their blood, sweat, tears, and injuries for, heartache and all. They remember, 2019 making the playoffs and things like that. And they want to see that for this program again. Nobody comes from a program and wants bad things from it. So, when we do that alumni game, I'm going to try to speak to as many alumni as possible and see, get their input on, what they want to see in the program or get out of the program and how involved they want to be and so on. So, yeah, absolutely. Alumni is huge. Even, my teams from my college days, we all still hang out and talk to one another. My high school teams, we still talk and things like that. This is, sports teams are a fraternity, lifelong friends, lifelong memories. And, all of those things are so important and you want to be proud of that. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a recruit and her coach at the high school level was an old Westbury alum, on the men's side. And he's like, oh, I saw you guys rebranded. Can I get a new sweatshirt? I'm like, oh, let's see if I get her signed and then we can talk about, kind of thing. But obviously that would be an NCAA violation. So
we don't want that here. You just took the job.
All jokes aside, but people are invested and it's really, the word is getting out there and it's a good thing. you know?
Yeah, and no question about that. We're here with Coach Jeff Littwin. He is the head coach of the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all music and wrestling matters. If you are here on Sportswire Radio, you're watching us on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the sub button for me. Also, support Coach Littwin and the girls soccer team, especially at this link that I've provided. You can also check him out on Instagram. Check out the schools page, the Skyline Conferences page, where you can see some of the stats and a number of different things here. And we are here with Coach Littwin. So I guess then with the 2019 team, that's still being fresh. Now, those players, they are still relatively new in terms of how long they left the program.
Mm-hmm.
Are those the players that maybe you'll rely upon most that are still in touch? Because again, think about it, 2019, right? It's 2025. So those players, they've graduated, and at most we're talking 2-3 years from this past season, and even if they graduated in 19, you're talking about 6 years ago. So are those the players most that you'll maybe connect with when it comes to alumni and such?
Well, once again, we're going to put it out to all the alumni as much as possible. Coach Marinan has run the game before, so she has a lot of the contact information for them. I hadn't really given much thought as to which ones I would rely on more. I'm going to be honest. Right now, I'm concentrating on our current team and our incoming freshmen and what they need to be successful, because obviously we always build upon the past, but we have to look to the future as well. And the players that are here right now are the ones that we have to service and make sure they're getting their needs met, but yet still honor the alumni at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about that. And I think that those are certainly points taken. And you brought up Lola Chavez, so I got to bring up Lola Chavez.
So Lola, like I said, I had coached her in the senior game when she was still in high school. Once again, very quiet, but very determined player, one of our best passers, great vision. We also have theater in common. We were talking about Broadway, practices and things like that. She's got an infectious smile. She's heavily involved in the school as well, just like Jasmine. She's like president of one of the clubs that she's a member of. I'm sorry, I don't remember all of the names and all of the clubs. My girls are so involved in so many things. They're so dedicated to the school. Just a wonderful young lady, a great player. And, once again, somebody that is a foundational player for us.
Yeah, I think that that's important. Those players bring intangibles. I think that that's an important thing that we're going to rely upon to the success going forward next year. And I also want to talk about somebody that is very important to the program. And that's somebody that I think we're expecting some big things for, should they be healthy. And I think we're going to certainly know that that's going to happen. And that is Brianna Sayek. I mean, if you would have had her for the full season, Coach, I think we probably were talking about a playoff team. I think we probably would have been talking about a team that had its best season since 2019 from a win percentage and had that winning season and all those different things. But I think if she's back next year and she's healthy, I mean, watch out.
Well, unfortunately, she is out of eligibility. She is a true senior, so she will not be back. It is very sad that her season was cut very short. She is a former D1 player. She had gone to the University of Tennessee, one other school, and LIU Post before she came to us. So, obviously very, very talented individual, unfortunately had an accident and was unable to finish the season, was off to a really solid start. I believe she had 8 points in the first 7 games.
7 goals. So, I mean, you talk about a player that would have been, like I said, the could have beens, I mean, the what ifs.
Yeah. That's something that I've talked about with the team also, and we can't get caught up in a lot of the what ifs. I mean, we were dealt the hand that we were dealt with, and we have to move forward. I think it was Bill Parcells used to say, "Next man up."
Yes, we actually talked about
in this
Bill
case,
Parcells
it's next girl up. Yep. When individuals were getting hurt, it's like, all right, you're ready to go now. You're in. I just got to move some people around. We could talk about one of my favorite freshmen in Dorla. Who started off as a bench player and worked her way into the starting lineup a few games in, and just the heart of a lion. Just works her butt off at practice all the time, and somebody I couldn't be proud of. Another freshman, Cameron Volpe, is the same way. She had played outside back, and I moved her to center back, and it took a little getting used to for her. She played hurt throughout a lot of the season, but once again, her and Dora are like besties, and to watch them too, because Dorla's 5 foot and Cameron's almost 5'9", so to watch them together is very funny. But Cameron is always making you laugh. She's always cracking jokes, and but on the field, she is relentless. Her throw-ins are a weapon for us. She controls the sidelines with them. And, once again, I am blessed because they are all great young ladies on top of being good soccer players.
You've always been about that. We know you're a teacher outside of this. You've always been about the classroom. You've always been about people that are going to be highly productive members of our community. You've always been about that.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that they're all doing well in school, and Taryn Hilke is a 4.0 student. And,
Taryn, I was going to mention next. Obviously, Taryn.
I'm going to be writing her letter of recommendation for grad school, whether she stays with us or moves on. She was a contributor. She came over from CSI. In Staten Island.
Coach Mendoya, yes, we know Coach Mendoya, yep.
So once again, she was really a hardworking player up top, and pressing individuals constantly. So, it's just, once again, the girls were put into a very, very difficult situation this year, and they really bought in. And like I said, I could not be more blessed to take over this program, and where we're headed is only going to be even better.
Yeah, I think we're all excited about the program because I think, once again, we're right there. We're knocking at the doorstep. I always think back to one of my former employers, and he would always say, this close. I never forget, there was one time he said, we're this close. It was, pertaining to an election. And I feel like this is where you guys are. You're right there. You're this close. And I think we're going to get through the door next year, because I think we have a lot of players coming back. And I think you getting a chance to recruit. And I want to talk about those moments that we're going to remember this season, and looking as to why next year we're going to have our best record since 2019. And that specifically, to me, is the Maritime win and the St. Joe's Brooklyn win. Talk to me about those first 2 wins here at Old Westbury, October 4th. And, oh, by the way, on my birthday, October 7th, against St. Joe's Brooklyn, those back-to-back shutouts. Talk to me about them.
So the Maritime game was senior day. So that was a very interesting thing, because, here we are celebrating people leaving, and I'm just coming in.
you're 2.5 weeks into the job there.
Right. And Maritime was kind of a thorn in my side from the previous job.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say, every year I talk with Jason, and we can never win against Maritime. So I'm sure that Jason probably messaged you and said, "Good job."
So I'm not gonna lie, that being my first NCAA win was a nice little thing, especially on senior day. And then we got to celebrate with the parents. We had a little catered meal. So it was a very memorable first win. And then we rolled that into our second in a row against St. Joe's. And then we played the Merchant Marine Academy, who was in first place at the time. And we did not have a good result against them last year, but we played them really tough this year. Lost 4-1, almost made it 4-2 with a couple of minutes left. So
we're hanging in there.
Yeah. And I mean, and me, I'm super positive. And, some of the girls were like, "What? How can you be positive after a loss?" And I'm like, because you have to look, we're building, and believe me, I get the frustration of when you don't win. I listen, we've talked about this. Nobody hates losing more than I do.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is you have
and you
to
had this, you were with Jason all those years. Jason walked into 5 towns. It was like with nothing. And we beat the number 1 team, Berkeley, in the country. Right. The next year, even with COVID, we were undefeated, number 1. And, so I know you dealt with that for a couple of years. All Jason did was win. So I know that you want to win.
I've always had that shadow hanging over me.
You have.
So once again, but I'm also the type of coach that's always going to look for the positives. I'm never going to embarrass a player on the field. If something does happen, I will address it in private. So I'm always going to be looking for the positives. And the great thing about Coach Marinan is she's exactly the same way. So here we are just kind of looking at the positives and what we can do with that, because if we get in our feelings for too long, and we stay negative for too long, it's
Yeah.
not it's
I
not
talk a
going
lot
to
about
be
that with
positive.
people on here, and I always say that the past, it's over with. You got to just forget about it. Yes,
Mhm.
we want to hang on to it, but realistically speaking, think about it for a minute and then, just move on. I always go back, and that's always been my approach in life,
Yeah, it's the Ted Lasso theory. You got to be a goldfish. 10-second memory,
That's it. You just got to forget about it. I always talk about it all the time. You got to forget about it. I mean, you just got
And
to
the other thing
move
is,
on.
I'm telling the recruits, I tell my players all the time, you're going to make mistakes. You're a human being. You can attain for perfection, but it's not going to happen. But here's what I'm looking for. You make a mistake, what happens after that mistake? Do you drop your head or do you go and get the ball? Do you drop your head or do you make a play, on the other end? It's all a matter of what you do next. Did you learn from that mistake or did you compound that mistake? And that tells a coach everything he needs to know about a player or she needs to know about a player.
No question about it. And I think also beating Purchase on the road is another victory there that got us to 500 at that moment, second to last game of the season. I think that's also going to be something that we're going to remember to help us going into the offseason.
So that was an unbelievable game. Number one, my goddaughter came to that game. She's a 10th grader up in Mayapack, so hopefully she'll be
Okay.
coming to play for me in 2 years.
Boy, that'll be so interesting. You better not have favoritism there because you're going to hear about it.
No. She knows she won't get favoritism. She might not come play, but she came to the game, and because they live up there, obviously.
Right.
Hey, we're going to be close by. Do you want to see a college soccer game? So my son's godmother brought her to the game, and and then I had another recruit at the game. So it was a great game to see because we actually pulled out the result. But I also call it the Disney ending. It was a contested game back and forth, and with about 45 seconds left, it looked like they had scored the equalizer. And all of a sudden, like in slow motion, the AR raises the flag for the offsides. And it was like, no goal. And we're like, oh my God. And we ended up holding on for the win. And it was just, like I said, it was like that Disney moment of just with the flag going up. And, and once again, Kristen, had almost made the save for that equalizer. And she was like, I had never seen her get emotional like that because she had thought she had let us down, but obviously they were offside. So
Right.
No goal. But that's the kind of competitor that she is. And that's the kind of competitors that I want on this squad, like that they take those moments where they feel like they let the team down, and they're gonna use that as fire, and to not make that mistake. And I told her, I said, you didn't do anything wrong. The girl was offside. That's why she was able to score. So as far as her penalty kicks, she dove the right way every time, which a lot of keepers don't do. One of the
we've talked a lot about the five counts.
Yeah, dive the other way. Getting back to her, like I said, she's a strength of our team. So that Purchase game, they're going to be a tough competitor. Once again, every team's out there recruiting, every team is building. So, you can't even judge from one year to the next how it's going to be, because you could have a team that lost 11 girls and they're a little down this year. And you could have another team that recruited really well. And
you just never know. I remember when I had the John Jay teams on, and the 2019-2020 team, all of a sudden Coach Highland in basketball gets a couple of players a transfer, and one of them was a guy, Jason Brower, who was briefly a Division I player at LaSalle and was a walk-on, and he got him, and the team, all of a sudden they wound up being a special team, and Romello Ford was now a coach. They bring those guys in, and sometimes you just don't know. You bring in a couple of players via transfer, or you get your own chance to recruit, and just the season expectations are totally different. So you just never know. But for you also, getting those wins under your belt, getting those 3 wins, that's got to be a good feeling because, you're starting out, you're in, a weird situation, taking over midseason here for Coach Bowringer. But to have those wins, it has to be a good feeling for you personally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always say if you prepare well, the wins will take care of themselves. And obviously, it's great to win games. That's the ultimate goal. But once again, to watch these young ladies grow over the short time that we had them, to see them being so invested now to help out with the recruits and to want to train over the winter and have a spring season and talk about the things that they want to improve upon, that they're buying in. All of that is way more important. And, once again, to watch them walk across that stage, when they graduate is the
You
ultimate
always
goal.
talked about that here over the years. You've been here, 3-4 times in the past. That's always been the goal here. And I think that you've got the program right where it needs to be. Let me ask you, though, one question before I change gears. Obviously, on the men's side with Coach DeRico, any relationship there, or how will you guys build upon? Because obviously,
it's actually very funny because Coach DeRico's daughter used to teach at Roosevelt, so I know Coach DeRico quite well. And we've sent a couple of Roosevelt young men to play for him over the last few years, so I do know Coach DeRico. But it's not a bad relationship at all. I mean, we know each other, we get along well, but it's not like what Jay and I had over at the other place. But that's what I mean,
I'm gonna make you laugh. You and Jay was like the mega powers before.
but the thing is, I've only been there 3 months at this point.
Yeah, just 3 months. 3 months.
So
it was 3 months, 2 days ago. Yeah, September 18th, you got the job. Today's December 20th. 3 months. I mean, that's 90 days just over.
Yeah, it's going to take some time to build. But once again, it's it'll happen. I'm not even concerned about that. The other big thing is we should talk about some of the players that we're going to hopefully get back from injuries next year, like Edelyn Garcia and Sanchez, who had season-ending injuries. Jalen played 18 minutes this season before she was injured. And she was one of our biggest scoring threats the year before. So obviously that altered plans right off the bat. Edelyn is, one of our biggest center backs, holding down that back line.
Yeah, Jalen had some big moments for you last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the year before. And, so to get them both back and healthy, I'm sure it's going to it's almost like 2 new recruits. You're getting back 2 healthy players that are big contributors for the team, so that's something I'm looking forward to as well.
And that's got to give you also something to look forward to, because these are players that, even though they don't really know your style because they weren't here after the coaching change, but seeing what they brought to the table in the past, that's got to really excite you to what you want to do, which is put your own identity here at Old Westbury.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you see somebody, contribute and be successful, and then not to have them because of injury, obviously there's nothing you can do about that, but you get excited about the fact that if they can come back healthy and be the player that they were, it's going to be a huge positive for the team.
Yeah, no question about those things. And obviously, we'll run through some comments really quick. Zilla wanted to say hello. Thank you, Zilla. Zilla was with me earlier in the day. And Donna wanted to say loyalty is number one. And I think that you've got a great group of girls that I think are going to be very loyal to what the program has to offer. And you can follow the team on Instagram. And that's a great way to stay up to date. And Donna never misses. Yeah, Donna definitely never misses. Just like Christian never misses a big moment where she's going to make that save. And also our website where you can directly get involved to support our Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. That's that link. And also, yes, please support the team. And we're here with Coach Littwin. Coach, I want to give you something before I transition into some other things in the remaining time that we have, because on this date, it is Old Westbury Women's Soccer Day on all Sportswire radio platforms. And I hope that you'll be so kind to take this, not quite a Christmas gift of a 5-star recruit or a significant donation, but nevertheless, we still want to give you this. And obviously, thank you for all that you have done not only for us, but certainly for what's ahead here in the program. I have to bring up Coach Bowringer. Now, we
Mhm,
know she retired and
mhm.
she passed the baton off to you. I know we're focused on the future, but what do you think of Coach Bowringer and how she's left this team? And what has your conversations been like with her since you've taken over?
So, just before I was officially hired, I had gone to the game incognito, just to watch the girls play, and Coach Bowringer was there,
Okay.
and she was
That was the
very
Lehman
supportive.
game on the 16th. That was the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
one.
she was the Lehman game, yes, and she was very supportive about me getting the position. And we had battled before. Remember, we had
Yes.
played the 2 previous seasons and
Yep.
things like that. So I have the utmost respect for Coach Betty. We've seen each other out on the recruiting trails when we were on the opposite, but now that we have this commonality of SUNY Old Westbury, I'm sure that if I had any questions or anything like that, I could always go to her. And she would be super supportive because she still cares about the program very, very deeply. So, you know,
And what went through your mind on that day, September 18th, when you get
oh,
the
my
call?
first practice.
Yeah.
That was actually a very funny moment because towards the end of practice, we had, broke it down, and Jasmine says, "What do we call you?" And I go, "I never thought about it. I guess Coach Lit. I mean, that's what I've always been." And then they all start laughing. I go, "Oh my God, I just said Coach Lit because I've always been lit." And they
Wow.
turned that into, something else. And
Yeah, you may not want to. You may now, when
yeah,
the wrestlers come on
exactly.
Sports
So
Bar, you can bring that up,
yeah,
but not you're covering girls
yeah,
soccer.
dad,
Sorry about
dad
that.
jokes for days, right, with Coach.
Yeah.
But it was just a getting to know you kind of practice. Like Coach Marinan was kind of running the drills, and I was trying to talk to each of the girls to get to know them. That was my biggest thing, was to come in and make everybody feel comfortable with me taking over as the head coach, because like I said, it was a big shift. They were 6 weeks into the season almost at this point, and
Yeah,
it
and
was
and the
just,
team was coming off several wins. I mean, this was a
yeah.
team that put together a winning streak. So it's sort of one of those weird things. You know how it goes in sports. I mean,
Mhm.
usually the coach gets fired because the team is on a significant losing streak, or
Right.
it's a downturn, or the coach steps down because of whatever reasons. And in this case, the team was actually on a high. It won four
Yeah.
consecutive games when Coach
And
Bowman
the thing
decides
was,
to,
I was
you know,
watching every game. I was taking my notes, and I was watching
right.
every game, and I was talking to Coach Marinan about, some of the things we were going to do, and so on and so forth. So even though I wasn't there, I was still involved
Right.
in all of the process. And it was just, once
But it's
again,
a weird situation when you take a step back. I know it's not because of the way you explain, but if you were objectively watching this from afar, here's a team that had won several games in a row. Here's a team that it looks like they're putting it together. They're right there, and then the
Mhm.
coach decides to retire in the middle of the season. I mean, there's certainly things that
Well,
happen.
actually, to get it factually correct, she had retired in the summertime.
Okay.
So what happened was, I had gotten the notice from Five Towns that there was no program anymore. The
Yeah, we heard about
next day, Coach Bowringer retired. So I immediately kind of said, "Whoa, this is like a sign from God, that you
that.
know there's you should apply for this position."
Right.
And it just took a very long time, the hiring process, and I was forewarned that the hiring process was going to take a while to go through. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way that the
Yeah.
bureaucracy of the
You're
school
gonna
goes.
laugh. I actually
And
put my name in for the John Jay College men's basketball team. I didn't get a call back, but I did put my name and I did fill the application. We kind of had some fun with this with the wrestlers on Sportswire, and I actually applied for the job, and they didn't call me back. But I mean, I don't think that I expected a call because I
so
probably did a few things here on the platform about them. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so like, when Coach Bowringer retired, she thought, that she had done it with, I'm sure, enough time to, help with the search process and everything.
Right.
And it just,
But couldn't you have said maybe that she decides to say, I want to finish the season because the team now it's putting it together. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I mean, obviously, we were happy for you. You got the job, but
Right.
it's still nevertheless a team's on a winning streak. The
Mhm.
team's riding high, and then the coach decides to say, "Hey, that's it.
Yeah,
No
I
more."
mean, look, I'm not privy to that information,
Right.
and I
I
don't
got
even want to speculate about, what the rationale was behind that. That's not for me to.
No, I mean, obviously, but it's still a situation that's, you came in and it's a rare situation that
Absolutely,
happened. I mean,
absolutely. And like I said, the girls did an amazing job of adapting. We've always said kids are very resilient.
yes.
So it's kudos to them. Because once again, they could have very easily spiraled out of control. And who's this guy coming in and what is he
Yeah, because we
doing?
see this all the time in
Yeah,
sports. I mean, whether it's at college or the
absolutely.
professional level, and you
And they
see,
welcomed me with open arms. And once they got used to my sense of humor and my bad jokes and things like that, it was awkward for everybody at first because you don't know, you know, who or what people are about. And as they got to know me and I got to know them, we built a really, really good relationship, and we'll continue to grow that.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think the program's in good hands, obviously, because we know you over the years. But I think objectively speaking, with the players that you're returning, I think with the level of success the team had this season compared to some previous seasons, I think narrowly missing the playoffs,
Mhm.
coming within one game of its first winning season since prior to COVID. And I think these players see it. And I think that that's a big thing going forward. So I ask you then, so what are the goals for next season?
Playoffs. I mean, obviously, that is a major goal for this team. Obviously, to continue to build on what we've been building on, to bring in more quality players and people to keep building that family and legacy. That is Old Westbury Soccer. I'm going to continue to grow as a coach and continue to learn. Because now I have to step up my game even more now, because now it's a bigger spotlight on the program than the previous position. And there is that sense of pride also that
Right.
I've taken on this position now. And I want to to build it to something
Well,
that
because
we
I think at Five Towns, you didn't, not to say that you didn't get the chance, you were there, but now you get a chance to really put your stamp on a program here. I think at Five Towns, we were there. And I
Mhm.
think now you get a chance to really build upon what you had an opportunity to do for a short time at Five Towns. I think that that's what's exciting most, I think, for us, whether it's here on this platform or certainly supporters of yours, is that now you get a chance to really build an identity. You were there at Five Towns, but you didn't get that chance. We saw the success. We saw what you could do,
Mhm.
but now you really get a chance long term to build the identity of what Coach Jeff Littwin wants in terms of not only his players, but for what he wants to establish here at this program.
Absolutely. I want people to speak about Old Westbury, not just the soccer, but the school with pride. I want individuals to sit there and say, you know what, they're not my second choice or my third choice. That's where I want to go. As a matter of fact, the first recruit we signed this year, Brianna, that was the case. She's like, nope. You're the only one I applied to. You're the only one whose radar I'm on, and that's where I'm going. And her family is super supportive. She just did her signing. We posted that on
Yeah, I
there
have it
she
right
is
here in
right
front
there.
of me.
Yep. And she's a wonderful young lady. She's actually trying to help get one of her teammates in as well now, because they're seeing what we're building. So I'm hoping we get another Lindy girl real soon. And we joked around that she doesn't even have to change her color scheme, so she goes from Lindenhurst green and white to Old
That's great.
Westbury.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's so cool. That's
so
really
yeah, and like I said, super, super wonderful, great kid. our defender freshman Pearl Alvarez was very instrumental in us getting our second recruit from Central Islip. Sorry.
I'm glad you said it rather than me, because you're the one that has to deal with this on a daily basis.
Absolutely, and that's another Jasmine. So I'm building.
I have it
Jasmine
right here in
now.
front of me. Yep.
Yep. And she's got amazing foot skills. She's once again another super sweet kid. And she's another one that we were the school that was on her radar and wanted to be here, and she played with Perler in high school. So
that continuity is there.
Absolutely. And then our third recruit, Edith Lohano, is a Long Island City kid. So we're branching out into Queens.
Hey, you know what? It's you're going. We always talked about that with Jason. We talked about that with you, and I think you have certainly a real possibility of recruiting city kids, especially Queens. Obviously, we know the Queens Long Island border, but we play so many CUNY schools. We play the Yorks. We play the Lehmans. We play all the different schools in the area. I mean, even Yeshiva's in the city. I mean, so you might as well tap into that dynamic.
Absolutely. And, a couple of these kids also play for big clubs, like Sousa, Slammers, things like that. So you're getting quality soccer players. But like I said, more importantly, we're getting quality young women. And you know what that means to me.
You've always been about that. You have always been about, you want quality people, not just on the field, but in the classroom. You and Jason are educators. So I know that that's important. You guys certainly aren't Jerry Tarkanian here recruiting people.
Well, the thing is also, like, I'll take a girl like Millie, who I haven't mentioned yet. So Millie is going to be a doctor. All right. And she's trying to balance, her class schedule with playing soccer. And, once again, she'll say to me, Coach, I got a lab. And I'm like, no, you have to go to your lab. You may have to save my life someday. So go be a doctor.
Well, that's good of you. I remember in school, it was just, it's important that we have the support of people like yourself, because I know when I went to school, I didn't have that, yes, I turned out okay, but I didn't have this, I know people would say, whatever, but I didn't have that. So I never felt like I had educators or to join a sports, because I never felt I had the right people around me. But that's why it's important at Old Westbury that we have Coach Littwin, Coach Teray, Coach Marinan, because these are the people that get it. And you're going to make sure not only are our team going to be ready to be in the playoffs next year in the Skyline Conference, but also be ready to be highly productive members of our communities, because that's going to be what we're going to be remembered for in the long run.
100%. And one of the recruits, who I won't say her name because she's not officially signed yet, when I was speaking with her and her mom, she was like, we love that you're going to be on her about her grades, because she needs that. And, once again, that is the priority. It's right. And it's one of the reasons that she's coming to us, and because there was another school that was going really hard for her, and they just wasn't the same. I don't want to say it wasn't the same support, because I don't know that for sure, but I made it known that the priority was school way more than soccer, and all the girls know that.
Well, listen, I've known you 3-4 years now. You've always been always straight and narrow, which I appreciate, because I think these players are going to remember. That's why, listen, your previous students, whether it was Roosevelt, whether it's in Five Towns or here, always had an affinity for you. And I think that's why it's important. I got to ask you before closing thoughts, our athletic director, A.D. Walsh. Talk to me about our athletic director.
She has been super supportive. She is unbelievably supportive. And not that I haven't had that, support in the past.
Jason was your former boss last year.
She sat with me for hours so far, just to kind of get me anointed into everything that I need to know, because there's a lot of differences and things like that. And she's doing everything in her powers to help me be successful. So, shout out to her for taking the chance on me.
Right.
And, just being there and providing everything that that I could possibly need in order to be successful at this. So
I think it's very important to have an athletic director that understands what we need here, whether it's the resources in the field, outside the field. And I think that that's why we're really primed and poised here to have a great season. And before we get to a few final things, I have to put that website up here one more time because of the importance of how we support our people that have been here with us. And this is how you support the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. This link here, and I put it up throughout the show. And I know people are going to watch this on replay, especially from the program and the school. This is how we support one another. You can do it one time, recurring, whatever you want. The holiday season. What better holiday gift by supporting the Old Westbury women's soccer team? What better gift? Maybe even to make it a monthly gift. Again, we got that option one time, but a recurring. And you can give anything. You can give $1. Even $1 goes a long way in helping this program, helping these girls who put their blood, sweat, and tears out there to be not only the best on the field, but off the field. And also, we want to make sure we support the girls on Instagram. Very important we do that here because that's how you keep in touch and find out what we're doing. And it's right here. Simple, straight to the point. The Old Westbury Women's Soccer Instagram page. Please support the team in any way possible. And listen, August is right around the corner. I know we're about to hit winter here in New York, but I got news for you. August is right around the corner. We're 7+ months away. So pretty soon we're going to be on that field. We're going to be talking about some Skyline Conference soccer here. We're going to be talking about the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. A lot to be excited about. The best is yet to come, and a rising tide has lifted all boats. Before I get to closing thoughts, is there anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to talk about that we haven't got a chance to cover about this team?
No, I know a lot of people ask, they're asking for, charity and donations, their college athletics program and things like that. This is to supplement the things that, the extra things that we'd like to do, like overnight trips and, certain, all of the teams get the same gear. So if we wanted to add something like a Parker for when it gets really cold, especially when we're in the playoffs next year, we want to make sure we have those things, and sure, we could buy them ourselves and so on and so forth. And, but we're college kids.
No, listen, you know what?
Working.
There's things that occur because, this is not what you're seeing right now on TV. People are watching the national championship in college football. We're the NCAA.
No,
but
it's not D1.
I know. We're going to say we're not even D2. Listen, we'll have Gordieso on Monday. D2, you can at least, you get a little more breaks. But at this level, I've been doing this for a long time. We're talking to D3 athletes, D3 coaches. It's basically you're on your own. Yes, you're an NCAA program. Yes, you have certain things, maybe facility-wise, that are great, but you're pretty much on your own. It's not what you see on ESPN, so we understand that.
No, it's very funny because certain people they'll do the shots of the locker rooms for these D1 programs, and you start drooling, like they look like.
Oh, they're getting paid now. Listen, everybody's watching right now.
Don't get me wrong, our locker room is very nice. It's just not what you see on TV,
listen, they're getting paid now. Listen, there's a kid I know that lives in where I live now, and I've known him since he was a baby, and he plays now for Purdue University, Liam Murphy, and he now, forget about it. It's the guy who went from Columbia, guy who went to South Florida and Purdue. Now they're, forget about it. He's made. It's not like here at the D3 level. Trust me, I understand. I think it's important that we support the program, we support the players, because really it's about the players because they put so much into it, whether it's with work, school, other responsibilities, and we know that play better than anybody because I have covered, obviously we know we're 5 towns, countless athletes that have to make that struggle, and they make those sacrifices, and we want to support them. We also want to honor the team before we sign off, and it is Old Westbury Women's Soccer Day here on Sportzwire. We pretty much talked a lot, and I'm really excited about the program. Obviously, we'd love to have any of the players would like to come on, certainly talk about their season. The door is always open. We certainly would love to. We talk about that off here. I'd love to see some of the players on here and get that opportunity, give them that. And, anything we can do to promote the program, we know that we'll certainly always have your back. And I think it's time now to pass the baton to you, give you some closing thoughts, and anything else, Coach, you want to plug, share, or say. The floor is yours.
I just want to thank you for always supporting me personally and my programs. Once again, just keep an eye out for us. We're on the rise, and there may be a few surprises when you see our roster next year. I don't want to ruin anything, but
we have a coach from 510. Coach Wells is on here tomorrow. I hope you're not planning something.
No, not on the coaching staff. Not on the coaching staff.
Okay. Because Coach Wells is here tomorrow.
A few
Coach
familiar
Vicina
names.
Coach, if I thought it was what I thought it would be, Coach Vicina would certainly cut the plug on any Sportzwire coverage. If you would take someone from his staff, let's just put it that way.
No, I am very proud of the staff we've built over there.
Okay, good.
There may be a nice addition coming soon as well. Another volunteer that I know very well for a few years now, and he would bring a lot to the program. So I'm hoping we can get him on board. But I'm talking about a few names that you're very familiar with that may become Panthers.
I see. I see. Well,
so we'll leave that until it officially happens. But
we'll talk about it, I'm sure. And if you are hiring volunteer coaches, I would put my name in the ring. I don't know if I have soccer experience, but I might have hype man experience. But I do. I have a resume now. I mean, I've had if it's in big names. I don't know if I'm the right fit for that job, but I'll throw my name out there in it. People
absolutely. We're still trying to fill our SID position. So hey,
I'm interested. I mean, what do I have to do to apply? Something tells me that I don't know if having Raven and jumping Jim Brunzell will actually help me get points.
By the way, that was so my childhood right there when you busted out jumping Jim Brunzell from the Killer Bees.
I can talk to you about it off the air. I've had some heavy hitters.
But I was just like, wow, he is taking it back. And
I have even bigger names.
I spent a lot of the 90s hanging out with Raven and the boys.
I can tell you some things off the air. I want you to keep this job. I may want the SID job, but I don't know if they'll want that with my resume. But who knows? But nevertheless, we'll keep that at that. We'll talk about that off the air. But in the meantime, it is Old Westbury women's soccer team here on Sportswire Radio. Follow them on Instagram. Also, please support them. That's the link if you want to give a donation. And no donation is big. Every one is the same. Every donation, no donation is bigger than the other, whether it's $1 or $1,000. You can make the difference. We always talk about on Sportswire Radio, making a difference in our community. I always talk about my involvement in the community, my political background, all the things I've done. And we always have said, you can make a difference. We are making a difference. We are going out there directly in our communities. This man has done that, not only as an educator, as a father, but also as somebody, as a community leader and a great coach. Let's support that program. Let's support these girls. Please go out there and do it. And I tell you, you will really feel good about yourself, especially this holiday season. What better holiday gift than to support the program? We're going to see some of these players on here in the coming weeks. Coach, congratulations on taking this job. Congratulations on what's ahead here next season. I'm very confident about where the program is going, and I look forward to talking with you in the near and distant future. Happy holidays, happy new year, and you look good as a Panther, and we are definitely walking with a Panther, to quote an LL Cool J album. And I think that the teams you're going to be playing, they won't be doing much walking when you guys get some more wins next season. But congratulations.
Get used to the hashtag pause up. That's our hashtag.
You know what? Well, it's no longer sound on. It's pause up until tomorrow. It will be sound on tomorrow.
That was one of my biggest fears, by the way, is saying the wrong team name, when you make the transition and things like that.
No, we weren't going to do that. No. You know what? You do realize I've had on the heavy hitters on here. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, the heavy hitters have been here. You're in the right place, and the only platform where you're going to get that. But nevertheless, not about me. It's about our dear friend, Mr. Coach Jeff Littwin, of course, who is in our Hall of Fame, and he's certainly a Hall of Fame guy outside the soccer field. And inside the classroom, he's a Hall of Famer. He's also the head coach of the Old Westbury Panthers women's soccer team. It's their day. Follow him on Instagram. Go to that link we've been putting out throughout the show to give him a donation. Every donation counts, and no donation is small. So my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, all music and wrestling matters. If you're here on Sportswire Radio, like, share, and subscribe. And until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all music and wrestling matters. Thanks, everybody.